Good day, everyone, and welcome to the flex.bi webinar about dashboard building and how to make beautiful dashboards that actually work and help people during the work. So today's agenda is we're going to talk about some rules that that it is suggested to follow if you would like to build beautiful and actionable dashboard. Also, we will look at the flex.bi graphs and try in a practice and have a look how the good and how the bad dashboard looks like. Hopefully, this will help you to build better dashboards in the future and think about the data in a different way. If you have ever built a dashboard, you have faced the situations and sometimes it's hard to decide what should be placed in a dashboard, or if you want to display some situation in a company, it's hard to decide which numbers should be included and which numbers shouldn't be, which chart type should be chosen. Sometimes we end up building dashboards who have very many numbers, and it's hard to understand what is there. Also, the opposite situation is quite common, that sometimes we put too little information and the user that is looking at the dashboard doesn't know how to get the relevant information or something that is connected to the numbers that he sees. So let's start with some basic rules to get to that dashboard who would be useful to users. So the first thing that you should think about if you're planning to build a dashboard, you have to understand the need. Understanding the need is important because if you don't know the business value and what benefits this dashboard brings to the person that you are building it for, it will be very hard to decide about all those things that I mentioned before. So if you don't know who is the user and you don't know why they need the dashboard and you don't know what are their habits, you actually don't know anything to be able to build a successful dashboard. You can, of course, you can put something that you have in mind that could be maybe related, but success rate is definitely lower. So I would suggest to start just thinking about who will be the user of the dashboard. And of course, the business need and the habits. Habits are actually quite important because dashboards you build for people. You don't build them for some incognito person that you don't know. In most cases, is you know the person that you are planning to impress, so you can also tell a little bit more about them. If you don't know the person, then you at least know what type of person he is in terms of what is his responsibilities and what is the things that he needs in a daily work. Also you should think about the best ways how to publish the dashboard. In a flex.bi, there are several ways that you can use to publish the dashboard. The first one would be a dashboard using in a web browser. So it might also change the way how the dashboard looks like, depending on how you will display it to the person that is the actual user. So if you are using the dashboard in a browser, so you can count on the size of the screen. It has to fit in, and of course, people who use computer dashboards, they will be able easier to play around, and they will have the options to drill into some numbers or see more detailed views by using those options that are available. If you are planning to present the dashboard on a TV screen, then you have to keep in mind that people who will see the numbers that you present, they will not be able to interact with them. So they have to be very clear, very easy communicated. I would say simple, very simple communication of numbers. Yes, so something very clear, something very easy, understandable would be suitable for TV screens. Sometimes even just a one graph is enough to tell the actual situation. Dashboards in an email. In flex.bi, we offer also option to receive a dashboard in a PDF. So if you have set up a dashboard, here in a right corner, there's an envelope mark, which you can use to set up and receive a dashboard in email in some particular day. This is a quite good option that can be used just as a reminder. So if you know that every month in a 15th date you have to think about some analytics of the customers, so this would be a customer segmentation dashboard, then you can say that I want to receive it every month 9 o'clock in the morning in my email, and it will be sent to you. So this also can be used in the cases when you work with the users who are not willing to use one more software, log into the flex.bi's, but they just want to receive the reports. Sometimes it's CEOs or CFOs, so they can also receive just a PDF and see results of the actual numbers. So there are also phone and tablet users. So users who tend to use the reports on the phone, definitely you have to think about that they will not make a lot of tiny little numbers, a lot of tiny little names that they will find it much harder to navigate. Make it more clear, more focus on displaying data, very intuitive, that they can say look at the dashboard and see what is actually happening from just looking at it. Yes, and on a phone, it of course, if somebody who's looking at the phone and wants to drill into the number in a Poland and see how these sales are divided by the customer category. So for them, that option is available, but you have to show them how to do that. It's also one of the things that you should think about. What is the user interaction planned for the users of your dashboard? So let's talk a little bit more about users again. So here I have written 3 types of very typical users that we are dealing with. So Ben, Michael, and Jennifer. And they're just a list of their habits. So before you begin, you can do this whether on a piece of paper like here, or you can do it in your mind. And if you just do this exercise once, it will help you in the future developments to decide better what is suitable for them and what is not. So let's look at those type of people. Ben is a sales manager, and he's always looking for something new, and he gets bored easily. So he does not like routine jobs and try to escape from them. So the things you could offer him is a simple and colorful dashboard, which is dynamic, and not to give too much information from him. If you give him a list of gray tables, then it's definitely going to end up with a failure. Also, to avoid his habit of trying to not just pay attention to something that is more fun, not the things that needs to be done, you can send him a dashboard email, or you can use the TV screen in the sales department so he can always see the numbers on the wall and just say, well, I didn't know that, which is quite often a case in many companies when people are not fully informed about the situations or the targets that the management is wanting to ask from them. The second person is Michael. Michael is CEO, and he hates to talk about unrelated topics. He likes getting answers fast. And he plans the future of the company, he makes the operational decisions. So for him, it would be a good idea if you would offer a future trend. So where he would easily see what is the future plan where the company could go, and also maybe some future, the end of the month projection or something similar to that. So we have similar dashboard with the trends. So this would be the one that I would offer him to see. So here he sees a number of the future sales that could be at the end of this month based on the actual income that is coming in. And here is also a future projection of the company based on the last 2 years. So for people who work with the future and who are planning the future, it's very important to see some guesses about the future. Even if they're not 100% precise, they will help them to just remind about the future planning, about what are perspectives, that some practical work should be done towards the future planning direction. So use these type of graphs for the board meetings and also for the people who are involved in the planning. Michael is making operational decisions, so he's working with the daily work, and his dashboard needs to have a simple ways to navigate from a basic report to more detailed one. He will most probably not be a very expert in this tool, so you also have to keep that in mind. So for him, you have to place some filters on the top. So if we look at this report, which shows just two measures, which is a profit and profit quantity and turnover. So in his case, this report actually shows something much more. So he can get here all the possible combinations of customers and item groups, so he can find out who bought what, and he can select here a single customer over the time period. He can select here which salesperson he's interested in. So if you add some upper filters on the top of the report, then you give users bigger possibilities to play with the graph to actually get more detailed results. For those also who maybe didn't know, here's an option to switch to the table view. So here you can switch to the table view, also sort and drill into more detailed daily views or anything else that would be included in the graph. And also you can export from here to the XLS. But all those options need to be shown to end user. So if you just give him this type of graph and not explain him how to use the filters and how to drill into some numbers here, then it will not give a lot of value. So you have to think about the interaction level and that you have informed him how to use those things that are available. So Jennifer is CFO. She's a typical number person. She likes to know where the numbers are coming from. She's not into colors, so she likes to be an expert, and he likes to do things herself. So with her, I see a typical person who would need to be maybe an expert in this company, because she actually likes working on a detailed views and working with detailed graphs. So I would also introduce her to drill through and drill across functionality, which I just showed you before. And also maybe teach her the basic options to add, remove columns, modify the reports. So yes, for her, I would show also the level of maybe working with the graphs and removing some some things and then building something totally new from this single graph. Yes, some simple interactions with the reports. You have to decide who in a company is suitable of doing that, and because many things can be done with just using filters and drill through options. Yes, but keep in mind that if the person has used to doing things themselves, then they will still have that habit, and you have to give them the tools. You have to train them to be able to do and their jobs at the level that they have used to. One more thing I wanted to talk about is the dashboard types. Dashboard types, they are also, if you know the dashboard types, then it's also easier to decide what should this dashboard contain, and also it's easier to decide how often the data should be refreshed, and how detailed should the dashboard be. So this will help you, if you know those types, it will help you to just make better decisions on what should be included in dashboards and what shouldn't be. So the first dashboard type is a strategic dashboard. So the strategic dashboard is meant for executive team to plan the company general numbers or some specific direction of the company. For example, relationships with the customers could have executive dashboard where you have set some key performance indicators or some important things that you have decided that they actually affect your results. This is the place where you put those indicators in an executive dashboard. They are used on a periodic basis, so you don't use them every day. And users are executive team, and they based on the usage frequency, they can be updated also not that often. So if we look at this dashboard, here's the executive dashboard for customers. If I have decided that in the long term I need to grow the amount of like the growth should be positive for my customer groups, so this is a place where I look at that in the long term. Also, I have decided that I'm monitoring the meeting count as we decided with our team that meetings with the customers affect the amount of the revenue that they are generating. And also here's also one more KPI that my team decided that is affecting our results is the activities based activities per customer. So how much time we spend this customer calling him and communicating with him, how it's relevant to related to revenues that he gets. And here are some also KPIs that I'm monitoring in long term, and in long term offering maybe a VIP status if some results are very good. So this would be executive dashboard. Operational dashboards tell you what is happening now. So operational dashboard is more about showing you if you had a good day, if you had a good month, so you can actually interact with the numbers and make the decision what to do next, what to do tomorrow. Are we there yet? They are used by all the team members, and they require the most real-time data because they are used every day. So almost absolute real-time data is required. So if we look at the dashboards here, then I would say that a target monitoring dashboard here looks like operative dashboard to me. So every month a person gets the target that is set for him, and here we focus on how much he has reached this target, and also individually there are targets set for persons that we are looking at if they have reached them. So every day you can come here and see if how everybody's doing. Maybe I should talk to someone. Or also you can communicate this on a TV screen where persons themselves can take care on a daily basis of the results that they have promised to deliver. So, and the last thing, last type of dashboard is analytic dashboard. Analytic dashboard is used to analyze the history. So analytic dashboard shows you something already that has happened in the past, also in the long term, but it shows you one problem very detailed. So this would be a customer segmentation analytics dashboard when we are looking at the problem of what type of customers do we have and which customer group is more beneficial to us. Is it the small customers? Is it the big customers who generate the most of the revenue? So here we are looking at some particular problem. Also the customer growth problem here, which we are trying to look at the very detailed which customer is growing, what are his results, who is responsible for this customer, in a long term, what maybe is the reason of this very low results and an increase compared to previous year. So analytic dashboards look at some specific problem in a detail. Don't try to build dashboards that fit everything. As you see here, we have divided just one topic in one dashboard, and this is actually the best practice that I would suggest. If you have one specific problem that you want to look at, place it in a separate dashboard, and you will be able to just not be distracted when you come and look at those numbers, and you will be able to pay attention to this problem particularly that you are looking at. Because if I would use this dashboard to and place some information about quotations, for example, that we have for those customers currently, it would just lead me to think about something else. And people's mind is working that way. Then if we see something, we react. So you can't blame those people if you have put on their table many different topics. They have to think about it all. So this is why you should remember, communicate one thing at a time. That's the best practice. Of course, that is not possible for executive dashboards where you have to place different topics, but then you have to use a very clear grouping of the reports, so they are displayed also in a clean way. For that, I suggest there is an option to remove the frames of the reports, which sometimes helps to make the picture more clear. And if the person doesn't have to log into a report, you can also use that to just make it look more tidy and clean. Yeah, here's also some list of the different dashboards that I would create for the company where Jennifer, Ben, and Ben is working. So if you are working with if you're planning to build dashboards, it's suggested that you make a list of things that you are planning to do. Make a list of the dashboards. Think about what business need they need to solve, And then when you have created them, look at this table again and go through it and try to answer yourself, have I solved the problem that I have written down at the beginning, that is the business need, and also have I thought about the users, and have I thought about the interaction level and how I'm going to solve those topics. Choosing KPIs or key performance indicators is the hardest part actually of building the dashboard. KPI is just a number of some sort that shows the result of the company, and it reflects your strategic goals and objectives. So based on industry that you're working, based on a department, they can be very different. There are many KPIs in different industries that people measure. So here I wanted to show you there's a key performance indicator library that you can have a look at later. Here are different KPIs with the formulas for different industries. So if you would look at the customer perspectives, that here are things like net promoter score, or market share, or customer engagement, conversion rate, which are here. Also some formulas are and descriptions are based here, but this could be a good starting point if you are planning to implement some KPIs which are more complex in your company. So have a look here, and here are some definitions of how they should be defined and what formulas should be used. But don't start with anything that is very, very complex. At the beginning, start with some simple things. So the simplest way of just building a KPI is build something simple, which actually matters. You can ask the person who needs the dashboard what is that actually affects his decisions and what should be showed here. So start with something simple, and then you can move to more detailed, more specific ones, which are popular in the industry. Because at the beginning you need to start with the baby steps, and then you will move to the more complex algorithms and more complex formulas. Flex.bi also supports building quite complex formulas for analytics, and using MDX language we can create formulas for more complex calculations. But start with the simple ones. Like in this dashboard for customers, this is quite simple measures that we are looking at, but still it gives a first impression of the things that you have decided that you should take care of. The next step would be designing it more maybe detailed, more complex, to actually give some more precise indicators of the industry or the customer. Maybe an NPS score would be a good idea if you're analyzing customers. We have built out also dashboards for net promoter score, which is the how you can analyze the customers if they are happy with your services provided. So different key performance indicators can be used, but suggestion would be start with the simple ones. Yes, and don't clutter your dashboard. Actually, to understand the problem that you are having in this particular direction, it's enough to have 3 or maximum 4 numbers who shows you the situation in this direction. So you can actually set yourself a goal that if you are trying to build a dashboard who shows the results about customers, that there can be only 3 reports included and only 3 measurements done. So this would make you to think about what are the most important things. Because if you're trying to display everything, then you might get lost in what is important, what is not. And don't worry, you can always modify a dashboard. Try with the first 3 metrics that you decided today that they could be important. If any of them you see in a future that they don't work, try to read about it, think about it, what you should replace it with. And you can always adjust your dashboard. Don't try to build it a perfect one at the very beginning, because you might be out of time building something that is you don't know about yet. So we have talked about the dashboard types. We have talked about the users. So the one main part which is in a dashboard is charts. Charts types in flex.bi are 9 currently. You can choose between them and based on a data that you are planning to use in a graph. Why it's important? Because the wrong graph can make data hard to read and give also wrong impressions that lead to the wrong decisions. So if you display the numbers in a wrong way, then it could be that somebody is getting it in not the way as you have planned, and it might lead to misreading the data. So be careful of choosing the graphs. In a chart direction, I wanted to show you a very simple example. Here we see me trying to show the items sold per person and also the revenue generated. And I have there's something similar in all those graphs. If you are paying attention to the things included here, they all actually show the same thing. So they all show item quantity, and they all show the item base amount, which is a turnover. But as you see, they look all very, very different. So the first one is the table with some numbers marked here on the top. Which is quite clear. I see that there are salespersons and they are some results. I see that maybe top 3 options, but I can't make any decisions really based on this table. So here is the bar chart where I have displayed. They are sorted by the revenue generated. So it's very the comparison is the very best thing for a bar chart. So if you're planning to show what is the comparison between different members, then bar chart would be the most suitable one. The next is the line chart. So in this case, line chart is not really telling me a lot. There's one trick that I have used, which I wanted to show you, is I have used different scales in a chart. So if you have 2 measures that are very, very different, in values. So if I would look at the table, the one is big thousands, and the other one is tens thousands. So it's a very big difference. And if you try to display them in any chart, it would be very hard because the small numbers will not show at all. So what you can do in those cases, you can use the axis options and place the other measure on the other axis. It will appear on the right side here. And when you read the graph, then you can look one measure from the right side, and for for the first level, the scale would be on the left side. But in this case, this doesn't help a lot, as it's very hard to understand still what is in that chart. Scatter chart. Scatter chart is a relationship chart. So if you need to show some relationship or correlation between two things, then this is a place to go. So here we see that this is the same turnover and the quantity. So this shows the amount of items sold, and this shows the amount of revenues generated. What I can see from this scatter chart now is that salespersons actually divide in groups. So Audrey and Kate is working in a similar way. They are selling a lot with the long numbers. There are three also friends who like be with a middle sales amounts and also not that big amounts, not that big quantities that they are selling. And here are some group of people who are selling a little, maybe juniors, maybe just different strategy. So this graph is actually telling me something more about those numbers that I could base my decisions on. So if I would plan the teams for the next competition, then I would put together maybe somebody from this and Audrey together with Leila, so they can teach each other something that they know. So any relations, a scatter is a good plan. A pie chart is historically very popular from Excel times and from olden times that we have used to. Pie chart is I think the first thing that comes to many people into mind when we talk about the charts. But I would say that a pie chart is not the best way of displaying data. I would say it's the worst of the all charts if you misuse it. It's only suitable if you have not many different things that you want to use in a graph, and if you are planning to just show the composition of how they all look together. Because what I see here now, it's many colors and it's many different things going on, but it's very hard to read and to understand what is actually happening here. So I would suggest to not use a pie chart in this case. And here is the last option that I wanted to show, the gauge chart. Gauge charts are, in a flex.bi can be set up in two ways. So here you can set up only with showing the numbers. Here is the button. If you open the chart, you can select only values, and then it will show up only with the numbers. So in this case, values are very focused on the present, and here I have set up also limits for what should be the targets and what should be achieved. So, and the numbers change the color based on that. So it's a very clear visual understanding of what should be what is currently happening and what should be done. Also here in a gauge which is more detailed, you can see the progress in numbers of turnover. So this would be probably a good idea to if you're building a TV screen, then the gauge charts are quite often used for that, because it's the easy way of displaying displaying things that need to be focused for one person, for one department, or if you are looking at some specific item sales which you are trying to grow, then this is the very easy way to communicate the growth. So as we see, there are many different charts, and if you are trying to display something, it actually changes a lot which chart you decide to use and which option you decide to use. Here in a document that you will receive, here is a link of our partner at EasyBI's article, where you can, which I really like, is a good example on the charts that what should be used and what shouldn't be used. Also, how you can make the decision depending on what chart are you trying to build. So what we talk here, relationship charts, they would be a scatter chart, or if you are trying to display a comparison, then you should look at the column charts, bar charts, and so on. So, and also here's one more thing I wanted to show you is this one. So I mentioned that you can remove a frame for the reports when you put them in the dashboard. Also, you can remove the data labels and unnecessary things that are showing in a graph. So when you build a report, try to think about that. So here you can see the full cycle of the report being very cluttered, and some suggestions how to make it more simple and more readable. And you can see that actually less is more. If you start with something that is very, very cluttered, and then you can simplify it and get to something very, very simple, but which actually gives you a better understanding and shows you a more emphasis on what is important. So if you have your charts chosen for each metric that you are planning to display, you should also think about the layout. Why layout is important? The bad layout is the main thing what stops users to lose the interest, because even if you have chosen the right charts and you have displayed them in a dashboard, it might be that you have just put them in the wrong place, or they are somewhere where user can't find them, and it really increases the time of reading the data if the reports are organized incorrectly, or even it can make people to abandon the dashboard and not use it at all. So here's some things you should know. So the first thing would be how people are tended to use the dashboard. It's just working in our brains like that. So you can't fight with that in any way. So people are reading from the left to the right most of the cases, and this is how they are reading also the dashboard. So they start with the top left, then they go to somewhere in the middle, a little bit on the right here. Then they look at the left corner, and then they go to the right. So how you can see that the right side is the place where it's not as prominent. You shouldn't place the first impressions here. So the first impression should go on the top of the dashboard. Then you give some more details, and then you give some explanation, which is very detailed. So if we look at this dashboard here, which is analytics by a country or map, so Here you see the same thing, that this is how it looks like. Yeah. So here are the numbers which you come, and you can in 2 seconds you can understand what's going on. We are selling to those countries. These are results. We haven't met the targets. Here we are going towards them. Here is displayed on a graph for the people who like more visual views, and here is a more detailed results about what are we selling, what items are sold to each country. Yes, so it should work better if you display it in this direction, and keeping in mind that people are reading it. You can try with yourself. You can just build a dashboard in a different way, and try to think about how you looked at it. What was the first things that you noticed, and what was the last things. Also, there's a rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is something that comes from photography, but it works also in building a dashboard, as dashboard is just a picture. So rule of thirds means that each picture or any image is divided in sections. So there are three sections, yes. And if you divide it in these 3 parts, vertically and horizontally, there are lines who are here who are crossing each other here, and there are the crossroad points. So those are the active points in any image. So in this case, the object is placed on the line here. So we can actually understand it much easier. And here it's placed in the middle. So it gives the different impression, and you are probably looking somewhere here and then here. So you have to be also thinking about the dashboards that the middle is not the most effective, not the best part to display the first things that you are planning to show. And finally, we're talking about colors. Colors. Building the dashboards for business users. I often face people who are not into colors at all, or they are too much into colors, and it's very sensitive theme, as people who are saying that colors don't affect the way they read data at all. If you try to give them 2 dashboards, they don't know even. They can't say afterwards that one dashboard they just like and the other one they don't. So you have to think about colors. Colors are very important because it's just something that our brain has some history about. So we have some thoughts about the red. We know that the red is bad. We know that the green is good. We have some associations with pink, and you can't change that. So there are some typical mistakes that I would like to mention about color usage. The first one would be using too many dark and too many focused and shiny colors. How it looks like, let's go back to the dashboard of here, for example. So if you look at this one as a dashboard, there's so many things going on that it's hard to understand where to focus on. So it's a lot of different colors and different settings, and it's very bright. So it's hard to understand which is the focus, what you should be looking at. In the same time, if you look at the dashboard, let's look at the customers executive. So here are only some things emphasized. So you see that there's only the ones that we are looking at now particularly. So if this graph is about increase, then this is a thing that we are focusing on here. Yes, and you shouldn't put the emphasis on everything. You have to decide who will play the main role and who will be the least player. Also, the easy way to display is to draw the gradients starting from a darker, then going to the lighter. Also keeping in mind that some people are colorblind, especially 10% of the men are, and you can also help those users to just navigate easier in the graphs. Using different colors to represent the same item in a different chart. So it's typical case if you're trying to display many things in a same dashboard. It's much easier to navigate if you use the same color for the same item. For example, in here we see that the gross profit is always green. It's always green. Everywhere you go, you know if it's green, then it's gross profit. And here is the other measure, which is the turnover. So the turnover is always blue. So it just saves you a couple of seconds of understanding what is shown on a graph and how you should understand it. Also, the third thing is using the traffic light colors, the reds and the greens. In this case, green is used as a color that displays a profit. It has nothing to do with the good or bad. So in this dashboard all over, there is no situation where I have used the green as trying to show a good. So if you have decided that you're gonna use traffic light colors as something to show which is bad or good, then you have to do it constantly in the dashboard in the same way. Like here, red means that something is not reached, increase is negative. So you kind of show the negative things through the dashboard, but it has to be the same way in all of the dashboard. It just makes it much easier to read. Here as well, it indicates something that is positive and negative. Yes, it's not about the measures. It's just about the traffic light understanding. Yes or no. It's bad or good. Yes, and one more thing I wanted to add about colors is avoid using company colors, as we have had requests of building the dashboards that are containing with the company colors, that the graphs are all in the same palette. There's an option to select. Any color that you would like to select here. So even you have like a company color that you would like to place here, you can do that, of course. But my suggestion would be don't do that. The same reason is because we all have some associations with colors, and if your company logo is red, then you don't want to have many red disturbing graphs on the screens for people, and believe me or not, but it actually affects. If you would put a big red screens in the office, that they would be alerted by that. And yes, that's about colors that I wanted to say. So pay attention to them. Think about the usage, what you place for each dashboard, and how you display things. Yes, we can go back to, for example, to this dashboard now, where we had the same measure displayed in a different way, and we can try to maybe correct it. So here we have an item base amount, which is here in a green color. So I would suggest that we go for a green also here. Also, I would suggest that we remove this red one and just maybe add some more darker green to show that these measures are just one more characteristic of salesmen. So I would put this green one here. Okay. And here are, well, there's not much I can do about the pie chart because it's very colorful in general. What I maybe would use, I would turn it into a donut, which is maybe more confusing, maybe not, but it would show you the same amount of different things, but here you can see in outer circle there is results by one measure. So this is the item base amount, which is turnover, and inside you have a quantity measures. So you can kind of see by each person how they are doing by those about things, and you're saving space in your dashboard. But of course, you have to learn to read those type of graphs. The same is with the scatter that I show you. You have to teach users to read the graphs and show them how to look at them. So I would just maybe place this one here and put this one on this one 60% down here, and this one on right side by so yes, you can adjust the dashboards by pressing edit and just drag and drop by the chart name. So this is a place you can drag and drop. Also, I will remove the names, and this one I would use for TV screen, not for the dashboard. Yeah, so it's a little bit more calm and a little bit more easy to read, as we know now that all the greens ones means the same thing. So think about those topics when you're building the dashboards. Talk to users. What are their impressions? What is the need that they're having? And yes, and the last thing I want to suggest to you is plan the maintenance of the dashboard. That is also a part of development. It requires about 2 or 3 times talking with the end user while you end up with the dashboard that actually works. So it's even if you have built a very intuitive and very good dashboard, it's just some things you can't think about everything, and you don't know the user. Maybe sometimes he doesn't know what he needs as well. So you have to think about what is your plan regarding the maintenance. You have to talk to them, ask them how they're doing and how the dashboard is working, and then you can find out what should be improved and what should be adjusted. We have a question regarding dashboards on the screen. So should we try to build a dashboard to fit on one screen? Yes, you can try to build dashboard that is put on one screen, but then you have to do some testing because it depends on a TV screen how it will be displayed. So you have to just set some dashboard and have a look how it looks like on a screen. So here is the here is the links available for the dashboard sharing. So if you use those, this can be placed in an iframe. And here is also a direct link that you can use to actually put the reports on the screen. And here you can see that there's also a black theme available for the TV screens that you can use. So if you prefer to use the black mode, then you also are welcome to do that. Also, a single report can be placed on a TV screen. So you just have to open the report, and here is the link of a single report. Embed the report, and here are the links. Happy dashboarding!